Hello, welcome. Just admitting everybody. Hello.
Where's everybody's beautiful faces today? Are you all in your pajamas? Is that why?
Yeah, we've muted you, but we've allowed your cameras on, so you might be eating your lunch, that's fine. But if you want to turn your camera on, then absolutely you can do so. So we'll get started. So hello and welcome to our webinar on how to grow as a leader. So I'm Lizzie Walsh, the HR business partner for Hallidays HR, and this is Liz Chiva, the director of Hallidays HR also. Probably recognise our faces, and we recognise some of yours, especially the names. So Hallidays HR is a HR training and recruitment consultancy practice, and we're based in Stockport. So we are recording today's webinar, so we will share this with you after, along with a copy of the slides. We can see, oh, sorry, I was going to say we can see you, but we can't hear you, but I've already said that. But yeah, we've turned your microphones off. So if you do have any questions or anything throughout the webinar, please just use the chat function and we'll pick them up as we go along. So over the next 30-40 minutes or so, we're going to look at the characteristics of good leaders, reasons why leadership is important, and then finish off with some practical exercises and tools to use to enhance your leadership skills. Okay, so what is leadership? So I think, it's fair to say that we hear this word bandied around all the time, but, what does it actually, what do we mean by leadership? What is it? Well, the Oxford Dictionary describes a leader as the person who leads or commands a group, organization, or country, whereas leadership is defined as the action of leading a group of people or an organization. So just slightly different there. So you might recognize these faces. Gandhi, we've got Nelson Mandela there, Emmeline Pankhurst, and they are pretty well known for leading enormous movements of millions of people, and are considered iconic leaders. But let's look at what it was that particularly made them so great. What were the characteristics that they had? So the Centre for Creative Leadership have identified through years of research and experience that the best leaders consistently possess these fundamental qualities and skills. So we're going to talk through each one. So first up, we've got self-awareness. So self-awareness is the understanding of yourself. So it's personality traits, behaviours, anxieties, and emotions. And while this is a more inwardly focused trait, self-awareness and humility are paramount qualities of leadership. The better you understand yourself and recognise your own strengths and weaknesses, the more effective you can be as a leader. We've then got respect. So when demonstrated consistently, respect is one of the most important things a leader can do. It helps ease tensions and conflict, fosters trust, and improves your effectiveness. Creating a culture of respect is about more than just the absence of disrespect. So respectfulness can be shown in many different ways, but it often starts with showing you truly value others' perspectives and make an effort to build belonging in the workplace, which are both critical components of supporting equality, diversity, and inclusion. We've then got compassion. So compassion is more than simply showing empathy or even listening and seeking to understand. Compassion requires leaders to act on what they learn. So after someone shares a concern or speaks up about something, they won't feel truly heard if their leader doesn't then take some type of meaningful action on that information. And this is core of compassionate leadership, and it helps to build trust, increase collaboration, and decrease turnover across organisations. We then have vision. So vision is your aspiration for the future. So motivating others and garnering commitment towards that vision are essential parts of leadership. And purpose-driven leaders ensure they connect their team's daily tasks and the values of individual team members to the overall direction of the business. And this can help employees find meaning in their work, which then increases engagement, it inspires trust, and drives priorities forward. And you will, of course, want to communicate the vision in ways that helps others understand it, remember it, and of course, go on to share it themselves. We've then got communication, and this can show up in many ways, from transmitting information and storytelling to soliciting input and using active listening techniques. Effective leadership and effective communication are intertwined, and the best leaders are skilled communicators who can communicate in a variety of ways, both orally and in writing, and with a wide range of people from different backgrounds, roles, levels, geographies, and more. And the quality and effectiveness of communication among leaders at your business will directly affect the success of your business strategy too. We then have learning agility. So learning agility is the ability to know what to do when you don't know what to do. So if you're a quick learner or you're able to excel in unfamiliar circumstances, you might already be learning agile. But anybody can foster and increase learning agility through intentional practice and effort. After all, great leaders are really great learners. We've then got collaboration. So collaboration is a characteristic shown when leaders work effectively with a variety of colleagues of different social identities, locations, roles, and experiences. And as the world becomes more complex and interconnected, good leaders find themselves spanning boundaries and learning to work across various types of divides and organisational silos. So when leaders value and embrace collaboration within their teams or cross-functionally, several benefits arise, including increased innovation, higher performing teams, and a more engaged, empowered workforce. We've then got influence. So influence, or being able to persuade people through thoughtful use of appropriate influencing tactics, is an important trait of inspiring effective leaders. So for some people, influence may sound unseemly, but as a leader, you must be able to influence others to get the work done. You cannot do it all alone. And influence is quite different from manipulation, and it needs to be done authentically and transparently, and it requires high levels of emotional intelligence and trust. We've then got integrity, and integrity is being consistent, honest, moral, and trustworthy, and it's an essential leadership trait for the individual and the organisation. It's especially important for top-level executives who are charting the organisation's course and making countless other significant decisions. And our research has found that leader integrity is a potential blind spot for organisations. So you just need to make sure that you reinforce the importance of honesty and integrity to managers at all levels. We've then got courage. So courage enables both team members and leaders to take bold actions that move things in the right direction. It can be hard to speak up at work, whether somebody might want to voice a new idea, provide feedback to a direct report, or flag a concern for somebody above you. And that's part of the reason courage is a key leadership trait. It takes courage to do what's right. And leaders who promote high levels of psychological safety, so creating that safe space in the workplace, enable their people to speak up freely and share candid concerns without fear of repercussions. And this leads to fostering a coaching culture that supports courage and truth-telling. We've then got gratitude. So gratitude is the uplifting emotion experienced after receiving something of value. So being thankful can lead to higher self-esteem, reduced depression, anxiety, and better sleep. And sincere gratitude can even make you a better leader. So few people regularly say thank you in the work setting, even though most people say they'd be willing to work harder for an appreciative boss. So the best leaders know how to show frequent gratitude in the workplace. And last but not least, we've got resilience. And resilience is more than the ability to bounce back from obstacles and setbacks. It's the ability to respond adaptively to challenges. And practicing resilient leadership means you'll project a positive outlook that will help others maintain the emotional strength they need to commit to a shared vision and the courage to move forward and overcome setbacks. So a good leader focuses on resilience, both taking care of themselves and also prioritizing employee well-being too, thereby enabling better performance for themselves and their teams. So, why is leadership important in the workplace then? I think there's many reasons, but our top 10 that we've put include improves communication, it creates a better work environment, it improves productivity, it increases efficiency, decreases mistakes, it motivates employees and sets a good example for others. Leadership inspires hard work, creates a strong vision and direction for the future, and helps keep employees on track. And it's true, some people find leadership easier than others, but we all have the capacity to be great leaders. We just have to believe in ourselves and actively work on our leadership skills. So on that note, I'm going to pass you over to Liz, who coincidentally is my leader, and she's going to talk through some exercises and tools to help you work on your leadership skills.
Hello. So smart, talented people only go so far because of their leadership limitations. So John Maxwell actually came up with a theory called the leadership lid. And it's a model that describes how important leadership skills are to the overall performance of a business. So basically, the level of the leadership skills sets a ceiling or a lid for all other aspects of success within the business. So just to get you involved a little bit, what I want you to do is just to have a little think, and I want you to give yourself a score between 1 and 10 of how you would currently rate your leadership skills. So if we're thinking 1 is terrible, couldn't get any worse, and then 10 is absolutely amazing. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you for your answers. This is just really for you. So just take a minute just to do that, to jot it down. Okay. So this shows the graph. Sorry, Lizzie, if you could just click it on one more.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. So this model basically, if we work through this example, you can see that this person has basically rated their leadership ability or their leadership skills at a score of 5. So this basically sets their leadership lid and would be the maximum capability or success and effectiveness of their organization and team. And in fact, what the theory states is that everything they did would be actually not a 5, but it would be 4 out of 10 or less. So things like you would recruit 4 out of 10 caliber of people, you would achieve 4 out of 10 KPIs, etc. So it just kind of, I don't know whatever your score was on there, but if it wasn't a 10, then I think it shows that there's room for improvement, and that if you can work on leadership and work on these leadership skills and technically lift your leadership lid, then it will have a massive impact on the business. So in business, every person in a leadership position, they operate in 4 different domains, or they use 4 different focuses in their behavior. So these domains are leading, managing, doing, and coaching. So leading is about vision and future. Managing and doing are more about the productivity and the results. And then the coaching is all about performance and learning. So obviously most organizations, kind of the fundamental building blocks are under the managing and the doing. So if you don't do those things, generally your business won't survive. You won't have a business. They are the crux of the business. But in the leading and the coaching elements, these are where you actually, it requires kind of voluntary action and choice to work on these things. And if you can spend time in these areas, again, it will kind of really accelerate growth and success. So if we just take a quick look at which characteristics fall under each of these headings then to give you a bit of an idea. So under leading, we've got inspires, thinks, motivates, initiates change, challenges the status quo, creates, is proactive, sets the pace, drives, and inspires loyalty. And then under management, we've got control, organizes, delegates, plans for change, implements current practice, they instruct, they react, they devise procedures, they supervise and coordinate, and they seek that productivity. Okay. Then under doing, an obvious one, but they obviously have that it's to do. They produce, they deliver results, they accept change, they accept that current practice, they learn, they act, they follow procedures, they administer, and they seek their own output. And then finally, under coaching, we've got characteristics like facilitating, empathizes, develops, makes change safe, balances risk and safety. They make learning happen. They respond, they balance innovation and procedure, they encourage and they seek that positive performance. Okay, so just again, want to do another quick activity. So percentage-wise, with 100 being the total, I want you to have a think about where you feel you are spending your time currently in your job. So how much of your time are you spending leading? How much of your time are you spending managing? How much doing? And how much coaching? And if you could just take a second just to think about that. So if you've done that, if you just want to, in the chat box, if you could just write in which domain you are spending most of your time in at the moment, please. Okay, so we've got a few answers pinging in. Okay, so we've got 60% coaching, doing, coaching. Excellent. Okay, so now now that you've done that, okay, we've got another doing. Fabulous. So once you've done that, I want you to think about how much time you would like to be spending in each of these areas. So we've done what the current scenario is, what the status quo is, but what would you like it to be? Again, just spend a second doing that for me. And then if you've done that, so what I want you to do is compare for each of the domains, what your current is compared with what your ideal is, and calculate the difference for me. And then I would like you to put the domain that has the biggest difference in the chat box for me, please. Making you work today. Kat's typing. She's getting a gold star today. Just wait a few more seconds. Okay, so the ones with the biggest difference is managing and leading. Okay. Leading for Colin. Okay. So yeah, so what you normally find is that leaders are spending more time than they would like in the managing and doing circles rather than the coaching and leading. But it's those two circles, like I kind of suggested before, in the leading and the coaching, that really has the massive impact on driving the business forward. So it's that whole thing about, working on the business rather than in the business. Okay. So thank you for that. Thank you. Don't worry, I won't make you do all of these as well, but this is just another tool you can use. So as a bit of an add-on to that, so you can use this coaching wheel. So some of you might have seen or used these before, but basically this can help you identify kind of where you are right now in different characteristics, but also where you want to be. And it can help you to understand, which ones you should be working on or that are going to have the most impact. So when we look at the key differences between the actual and the wish in the 4 domains exercise, you can basically identify 2 or 3 key behaviors, or if you want to fill all of the spokes, obviously you can do a coaching wheel with as many spokes as you want, really. But if you put those kind of characteristics on that you really feel will make a difference and place them on the spokes on the wheel, and then for each behavior, you give yourself a score between 0 and 10, and then you plot where you are right now and where you would like to be. So for the example on the screen, obviously this is for the characteristic of being a role model. So I've given myself a 3, but actually I want it to be a 9. And you could do that with obviously with every single one. And sometimes it's about, when you look at this and when you plot it out, it's not necessarily the one with the biggest gap that is the one that you should be working on. Sometimes it might be from the biggest impact is moving from a 7 to a 9. So it's, have a think about actually which ones are going to have the biggest impact if you can shift the needle just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to use a coaching tool to help you kind of work through once you've got those behaviors on there. So the model we're going to use is TGROW. So some of you might be familiar with this, but basically it's an acronym for topic, goal, reality, options, and will. So for example, topic. So topic is, what do you want to talk about? Okay, so in this particular instance, it might be leadership or be a role model. Okay, so then you look at goal. So we're defining this, as you work through. So then you're looking at, what do you want? So it might be to become a better leader, to become an ideal role model. But you need to define it in such a way that you know that you've achieved it. So it needs to be that kind of, I guess, that SMART objective there. The reality then, so the next step is about looking at what's happening now. So this is about being like brutally honest with yourself, being really open, transparent about what the current situation is. Yeah. What are you good at? What are you not very good at? And, to avoid that kind of self-delusion really in this, because if you kind of delude yourself about where you're starting from, then you potentially are going to work on the wrong things to try and increase that particular behavior. Then you'll look at options. So this is like, what might you do next? So this is basically where you go a bit crazy, go a bit innovative, and think about all of the possibilities that exist and what you could do to reach your goal. So you might ask yourself a question like, if money was no object, what would I do? If I had a magic wand, what would I do? It's all about thinking about what the choices are before you start looking at, the next one, which is, okay, these are all of the options available to me. Let's home it down into what is actually realistic. What am I actually going to do? What actions, goals, and being accountable to, I need to set those and actually come up with a plan. And throughout this, we might have experienced this with a coach, but coaches can be really quite handy in terms of making you accountable, and asking those difficult questions and being very objective about things. So just obviously I've just mentioned about business coaching. How many of you have used a business coach in the past? I don't know if the hands up thing will work. It might be a bit, if there's a button that says raise your hand. Is there anybody used coaches before? I can't see any. It might be my eyes, so apologies if you have put your hand up. But basically, I think there's a bit of a misconception that people who use coaches, like they're failing, or there's that whole, they're incompetent, but actually that isn't the case. So in lots of people's eyes, it's all about making the good better and to be the best that you could possibly be. So many people, successful business owners, CEOs of businesses, they all use coaches just to make the absolute best of themselves. And the Harvard Business Review, they actually, from a statistics point of view, they found that coaching increases individual productivity by 22%, which is a pretty big percentage there. Okay, so just moving on then. So we touched on earlier that one of the most important things about being a leader is to understand your own leadership and your own communication style, and the impact, obviously, that you have on others as well. So there's loads of ways of doing this, but one of the most effective ways that we've found is by using behavioural profiling, and the one that we use is called DISC. So DISC behavioural profiling is a really quick tool. So it's an online questionnaire, takes about 5 minutes to complete, and then it basically produces you a report. And then from that report, it highlights what your preferred behavioural style is. So I'm just going to talk through kind of real whistle-stop kind of tour of DISC profiling and how it works, but I thought it might be quite useful for today's session. So within DISC, and the report, it basically comes out with, like I said, your most dominant characteristic. So you will either be a high red, so the D stands for dominance. Okay, so these people are task orientated, they're outgoing, their results, they're direct, they're competitive, they know what they want, they know how to get it, and they're very quick to make decisions. They're very short, sharp, to the point type people. If you came out as being a high under influence, then these are what we call the yellows. So these people, again, are very outgoing, but they're very people orientated. So they're really good at kind of building relationships. They like the limelight. They like talking in front of people, finding out about people. They're usually the kind of big idea, the kind of, I don't know what the right phrase is. I was going to say blue sky thinkers, but you know what I mean. They very much are the ideas people. They basically like any social interaction, and enjoy that side of things, networking, presentations, that type of thing. Okay. Now, somebody, if we just go to the bottom there on the green one, so somebody who comes out as a high S is what we call steadiness or a green. So these people are a little bit more on the reserved side. They kind of, sit back, kind of take it all in a little bit. but again, really people orientated. So they're very sincere, they're honest, they're modest, they're loyal, they're dependable. You know, they're an absolutely fantastic team player. They've got very strong moral compasses, so that really kind of strong sense of what's right and what's wrong. They like routine, they like steadiness, and you know, they like security, really. Sometimes these people can come across as, you know, a little bit reluctant to change, but that absolutely isn't the case. It's just that they just need that little more time because they're a little slower pace to process things. And once they are, then, you know, they're absolutely fine and on board. Okay. And then finally, then, so it might come out as a high C. So these people are what we call the blues. So these people are they've got they're very accurate, so they've got high attention to detail. They are they like things to be 100% correct. They've got really high standards of themselves and of other people as well, and they can get quite frustrated sometimes when things are not done the right way in their eyes, because they've got a very efficient mind, so they're able to kind of come up with the best way of doing something very, very quickly. Very much based on research, on evidence, and normally that kind of, you know, they like the kind of written a form of kind of communication style a lot of the time, and obviously all of the facts and figures. Okay. So obviously, you know, these are really different areas to sit in, and you know, you won't necessarily be all of one particular color, but it does give us a sense of what somebody's, obviously, their dominant color is. It won't surprise you, I guess, that most managing directors and entrepreneurs are kind of sit in that kind of high D, that red box. So obviously great in terms of getting stuff done, getting the results, you know, really kind of hitting those KPIs. But sometimes they can, you know, if people aren't on the same wavelength, can be a little bit daunting, a little bit potentially overwhelming, and kind of in your face a little bit. So it's about, you know, kind of bearing that in mind. And at the end of the day, I think it's just really obviously important to understand that these different styles do exist, and that you will have your preference, but everybody else also has their preference, and that's okay, you know, because there's no right or wrong profile in any of these. It's all about understanding who you are, understanding your preferences, you know, what you're motivated by, what you're scared of, what your what your communication style is, but also understanding that not everybody else is like you, and that you might have to change your style in order to get the best out of other people. Okay. So finally then, so we discussed briefly in the T-Grow section that obviously it's really important for the growth and developments of leaders to kind of, that feedback is really kind of vital in that area, that we need to have that honest, that brutal almost feedback in a nice way, but, you know, have that really you know, gloves off type approach in terms of being able to understand, you know, from the characteristics that Lizzie spoke about in the beginning, you know, which areas of those are you brilliant at? You will automatically be brilliant and fantastic at some of those, but there might be others that you're not so good at, and you might know what those are. But I often find that, you know, to get a really clear picture, it's really good to get some feedback from other people. So yes, we talk about coaches, but also talking about that 360 feedback. So getting, you know, getting feedback from your team members, potentially from your peers, and also, you know, from your manager and maybe the senior leadership team, to be able to get that fully rounded picture of the things that you are amazing at, and the things that potentially you might need to work on. So that is all, folks. We hope that you found today really useful and interesting. Hopefully you've been able to, we've given you a couple of tools that you'll be able to take away and build on and use going forward. If, of course, you would like a chat about anything we've spoken to today, I know that we've done a bit of a whistle-stop tour of it, so we're happy to go into a bit more detail with anyone that would like to. Just drop us a message in the chat or send us an email after the session. And like we said, we're recording this session, so we'll make sure that we send the recording round, and we've also written a white paper on leadership, so we'll send that around as well. So before we finish, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to type them in the chat box. I will give you 30 seconds. Then we'll be ending the meeting. And I thank you very much for attending. You're welcome, Kat. Thank you for coming. Thanks, Shelley. Right, I'm going to leave it there. If anybody has any questions, you know where we are. More than happy to help out anytime we can. Okay, have a good afternoon.